What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Chris's Custom Collectibles, and today we're gonna be pimping out Leonardo, from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've got to sit back. He's massive. This guy is absolutely huge. So I got him on special from Big W. Originally he was $198. And he was reduced down to $80.01. Not 2 cents, 1 cent. Now, reason being, his arm comes off, but that doesn't bother me whatsoever. Now, Laura and I were heading around Big W. I saw him and I thought, this guy has so much potential. So what I'm doing is steering completely clear of a kid-friendly version. We are gonna make Leo look absolutely disgusting and gnarly, like true TMNT fashion. The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics are very dark, very graphic, and very violent. So I want Leo looking disgusting and gnarly. So in terms of the green, I'm keeping that, but we're gonna be going over that with some washes and shoe polish. I am gonna be airbrushing and highlighting his muscles and putting some reptile dots on there, much like Jim Henson's suits from the original film. We're gonna be replacing this with leather, pleather, vinyl, you name it. The shell actually acts as a storage container, and when I opened it up, because it was zip tied shut, there were 2 katana swords in there. So I'm either gonna go the route of buying 2 more katana swords, because they're really short, they're in the living room, but they're too short in terms of scale to match up with Leo's stature. So it's either gonna be buying some longer looking swords like children's swords or make my own, but you know I'm probably gonna end up making my own. Gonna be laying some fabric over the bandana, and I really just want it looking rough, aged, and maybe something that looks a lot like canvas or linen. Now I've got some leftover black weathered pleather from my Pirate Batman cape, so wherever the pads are, I'm gonna be wrapping that around it. For the bandages here, I'm thinking actual bandages and then go in and weather them. The fingers are just gonna be masking tape, as well as the feet. Your feet are massive. But for now, I'm gonna head up to Spotlight, see if they got some pleather and some washes and stuff like that, and the blue for the bandana. So with that being said, let's get to it. Alright geeks, it's time for some shitty commentary. Now I'm just removing the back of the bandana and the 2 belt straps with a Stanley knife there, because obviously we're going to be replacing those suckers. And I actually didn't end up taking all of Leo apart, just his arm that pops out, which is the defect on the product, but it's no big deal. So what we're doing now is emptying a whole vial of black shoe polish into a Tupperware container, and we're just going to start brushing all over Leo's skin, as well as his breastplate and the shell. Now I'm just dabbing off the excess once it has started to semi-dry. And here I am covering the rest of him. I made sure to be very careful not to get any in his eyes, because I still wanted his eyes looking pristine for when we put the fabric bandana around his face. And this took so long to do, it was just tedious. And there you go, I'm just dabbing away the excess around his big hooves right there, and it came up great. The green is a really nice base color. And what I did next was I got some Model Masters black, popped it in my airbrush. My airbrush is completely dead now. This was the last project it ever did, rest in peace, but I'm just highlighting his deltoids and his triceps there, and it really gives that nice depth and definition, as you can see right there, as well as adding the reptilian spots just sporadically all over his skin. As I mentioned, much like Jim Henson's suits from the original live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And there we go, the end result. I'm just going back and just using the airbrush whilst I still had some paint in there, and before I laid it to rest permanently, just highlighting the creases in the breastplate and some of the scratches there. Now I managed to pick up 6 bandages in total. These things I got from Coles, you know, just medical grade bandages, giving them a light spray with some Rust-Oleum flat black just to start the weathering process, which will be followed up later. And I'm just very tightly wrapping it around Leo's wrists, as you can see right there. And when I was happy with the result, I just Loctited the end piece in place on top of the bandage. And it was actually bucketing down with rain when I did this. I did this, I did Leo over a course of 2 days. So pretty much split in half, and at this point it was absolutely storming in Sydney, and I had a lot of damp dirt around the garage area. So what I did was I weathered that gauze pad with that dirt. Now I'm just getting Sikaflex spray adhesive, which is the same stuff I used on my Batflex suit. I've just got that black pleather as you saw me in the previous shot with. That's actually the same pleather I used for my Pirate Batman cape, and I'm spraying that all on the padded area. This goes exactly the same for his knees. This just ensures that the pleather is going to pick up all that detail of the elbow pad. As you can see right there, I'm smushing it into place, and it wants to stick, excuse my language, like shit to a blanket, and that's exactly what I wanted. I just wanted that form-fitting, wrapped look, and this is just marketing tape, guys. This is just no-brainer right here. And yeah, there we go, handful of Sydney Storm dirt. And that really picked up some nice detail, that masking tape there. So I just wanted Leo looking like a real brawler, bruiser, like he's been in combat. He's taped himself up. So I was very happy with the end result for that, as well as the dots you can see there that I airbrushed on. And here's just a good example of how I did the knees. Exact same process, just a bit trickier obviously because you've got those two legs fixed together as opposed to having a free arm, or the other arm that we can just pop in the up position. And again, like I mentioned in a couple of shots time, I ran out of bandage, so I couldn't do his big hooves down the bottom there. I had to wait until the second day. Now in terms of the shell, this is just a light brown, and I'm just very crudely spraying this on his shell, just so it breaks the color up. I originally was going to keep it that color with the black shoe polish on it, but I wasn't satisfied with it. It didn't look right. Didn't look very turtle-esque, so I was just going to let this dry for a little bit and then go over it with some brown shoe polish. Now the brown shoe polish, as opposed to the black shoe polish, really made it look like a proper turtle shell and got into all those details and crevices on the surface of the shell itself. So I was very happy. I went ahead and experimented with that, because a lot of the time with custom collectibles, guys, it's experimentation. That's essentially what it is. Now, I would have loved to have gone the whole 9 yards and sealed all the joints up and everything, but I spent a lot of money getting all the supplies for Leo already, so you kind of got to call it a day at some point. And I was just using that leftover brown shoe polish to go back in on the breastplate and do some extra staining, because from what I remember, the Jim Henson creature suits had very heavily stained breastplates from the original film. Now this is a $10 belt from Target. I got 2 of them. These are going to be used as a base for the torso straps that will hold the katanas in place. And I'm just going to get some Duramax from Dulux, which is a clear primer, and spray that on the belt, because we're keeping that belt as is, but we're going to go over it with some brown student acrylic paint. And then once I coat that entire belt, we're just going to go back in with some black shoe polish just to highlight it and eventually make it match up to those torso straps. So we're just going to dab away the excess black shoe polish once we've covered all of the belt itself. Just going back in, doing some touch-ups here and there. Now in terms of weathering the belts, you got to keep in mind this isn't real leather, guys, so it's not going to weather like real leather would. So first we're going to give it a sandpapering, and then we're going to lightly spray some matte black on it, and then go back in and start to rub it into that foam flooring which I've got there, and then hit it with some more sandpaper. So we're just buffing it in with my fingers and on the ground, just being really aggressive with it. So I don't want it to look uniform. I want it to look really just soiled and dirty. And I did go back in later on and spray paint the buckles, because again, as you can see there, they are just looking way too pristine for my liking and for Leo's liking. Alright geeks, it is time to upgrade these katana swords now. Okay, so this is one of the original katanas that came with Leo. It was actually in the back of his shell with this other katana, so I want to replace it with an aluminium blade. So I've just got a 1 meter aluminium strip, which was like $3.50 from Bunnings, which I've cut in half, so it's 50 centimeters each, a little bit longer than the original blade, because this blade is just way too short. It looks too out of proportion whilst Leo's holding it. So what I've done is dismantled the second katana. So this is the inside of the handle, and obviously the outer shell that clips onto it, and then you screw it in place. So what I've done is I've cut the blade off here, As you can see, it's hollow on the inside, so what I'm going to be doing is heating up the base of this aluminium and slotting it in so it's a perfect fit. Then obviously we'll grind the blade out. Now in terms of the sheaths, the sword sheaths, this is just like a PVC electrical housing that I also got from Bunnings, so this is going to be used as the sheath as well as another one. Now this is going to be sprayed with the spray adhesive over there, and it's going to be wrapped in the same black pleather as, if I can get that to focus, Leo's pads. So what I'm actually going to do is dry brush some brown onto those pads because they're still looking a bit too pristine for my liking. I also do have to wrap his feet. I ran out of bandage. I went to 3 different Coles, which is our supermarket here in Australia, and they were all sold out of bandage, so a lot of people must be fucking themselves up lately. So I finally got 6 rolls of bandage, 3 for each, because he's got those big hooves right there. So yeah, that's pretty much the next step, guys, and then we're going to start to wrap it up, do some minor details, and we're going to call it a day. Okay, I'm just marking the tip of the blade here, which I ground the excess off with on my bench grinder. Gave it a nice sand just to make the blade look a little bit used and a little bit weathered. And next up, we're gonna hit it with some heat. So this is a matte gas torch, which I do a lot of brazing with, and this heats up the aluminium quite quickly. So you gotta be quick, guys. Very careful as well, because it really makes that metal hot. I'm just smooshing that into the handle itself, and I have drilled some holes into the aluminium so the screws can thread through on the handle and it can all come together and lock in place, as you can see right there. Okay, now I'm just spraying on that spray adhesive to start the pleather wrap process. I did put a little circular part on the butt of the handle and just wrap it all the way down to that hilt. Cut off the excess, and then we just lock tight the end strip in place, as you can see right there. Now, I was trying to emulate Leo's katanas from the first live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they're quite crude. And here we have the sheath all completed. Exact same process as the handle for the katana, guys, ×2. But I did go in with that brown student acrylic that I painted Leo's main belt with, just to break it up a little and just so it didn't exactly fit flush with the handle and make it a bit more weathered, a bit more used, like as if it's dried out and cracked black leather. Just focus in right there, give you guys a good idea of how it looks close up. Now I just got some baking paper and I'm just stenciling around Leo's eyes and the bandana to start the process of tracing this onto the blue fabric that I got from Spotlight. Just seriously bare basic blue fabric, guys. I think this cost me like $5 for a meter. So I got 2 meters just in case. I'm just cutting that baking paper out. Now I didn't do the full slits in the eyes. I just did the middle section because I kind of just wanted it looking a little bit different. You guys will see that when I pop the bandana on. I'm just tracing this on with some white chalk, which came off pretty easily with some sandpaper once I cut the shape out in fabric. And it actually helped weather it a lot, the sandpaper. I wanted that sandpaper to really fray those edges and just make it look like a really used bandana. Now I did spray a bit of spray adhesive on the bandana itself of the original figure, and then I sprayed the rest of it on the back of the fabric bandana. Just very carefully lined it up, because it's one of those things where if it starts to tack in places you don't want it to, it gets pretty messy, guys. And just knot him up at the back right there, and the bandana is easily done. Now as you can see here, we've got the 2 ends of the belts that have been threaded into where the original straps were, and what I did was sandwich 2 pieces of excess on either side and rivet them in place. So essentially it's anchored those 2 pieces of the belt in place, and they're not going to go anywhere once I strap him all together. And as you can see there, I've just got some more excess belt there and Loctited it in place where the sheaths are going to be glued on and then wrapped around with some leather wrapping. And then to secure the belt in place, I just used 2 pop rivets at the back so it's nice and tight. And here we go, guys, the final reveal. So guys, overall, this was a pretty simple build. I just wanted to keep this simple. I didn't want to break the budget. I'd spent quite a bit of money enough as is on him. I do have to go back in, and I don't know if you guys can notice on Leo's right hand eye, I do have to readjust that bandana because it had grabbed in some areas. But other than that, I'm thrilled with how he looks, guys. So I will have Leo for sale on my Etsy store. Unfortunately, I am going to have to keep it to within Sydney because he is just way too big to ship anywhere else in Australia, let alone the world. So guys, thank you so much for watching as always. Hope you're well, hope you're happy, be merry, be silly, and until next time, geeks, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.